Well, we've had this topic flip-flop back and forth for months now. Is it an odd-numbered month? Oh, that means that there isn't Touch ID on the next iPhone, based on the most recent leak by Ming Kuo. But before I get into that, gotta say, it's nice to be back. I had a nice trip to San Diego. For a lot of you, I've been making videos all week. Those were all made in advance. I worked overtime 2 weeks ago to make sure that you guys got content even when I was out of town for 7 days. Now I'm finally back. I got very sunburned, so I might look different, kind of look like a hobo. And just before we talk about the iPhone edition, I have to say, what in the name of Craig Federighi is wrong with you guys? I said countless times that I was gonna be out of town. I made videos in advance and said, look, if any big news drops, I won't be able to talk about it for a while because I'm out of town. All of last week's videos were made a week before they came out, so I wasn't able to talk about the no Touch ID thing. I said that so many times and yet everyone forgot. Everyone's like, why aren't you making videos about it? You coward, why aren't you bringing this up? Oh my god, the uninformed kills me sometimes. You know, I could have been like everything Apple Pro and just uploaded nothing. You know, it's his birthday, so he just takes a week off. I didn't even decide to go on this family reunion. We've been planning it for years now. I didn't know that I was going to be a full-time YouTuber for that week. But because I cared about you guys, I made stuff. And what do I get? Complaints that it's not about the most recent leaks. Try so hard. What if next time I just don't upload anything? You know, I'm just gone for a week. We'll see how much you like me then. Anyway, Ming has reported that supposedly Apple is not going through with Touch ID on the iPhone edition. Big surprise, right? People want thinner bezels, people want redesigns, and then Apple redesigns something in favor of thinner bezels, but then we freak out because they weren't able to incorporate this brand new innovative technology that was literally just unveiled by Vivo and Qualcomm a couple weeks ago. Now, a lot of people have been making fun of Apple in my comments particularly that, hey, even Vivo can figure it out. Apple's a joke, they can't do it. I've tried to explain it in the comments. Look, it's not as simple as just building a fingerprint reader into the display. In fact, as I've argued in a lot of these comments, I think Apple was capable of doing that. Earlier leaks especially pointed to the idea that Apple had figured out how to embed Touch ID where the home button would be on the full display, very edge-to-edge design iPhone edition, but the reason they were having holdups was because the assembly process of this new technology took so long that by the launch date, there would be very, very few iPhones, almost to a point where Apple has to consider that if they don't have millions of iPhones to sell, then it's almost not even worth releasing them. Look at this from their perspective. Every year, every time they reinvent the iPhone, it breaks records of how fast they sell. They'll sell 13 million iPhones in just a couple days on launch day. So if Apple decided, hey, Touch ID in the iPhone needs to happen, this must be incorporated. However, it takes a long time to make that. What if on launch day, they only had 100,000 iPhones to sell? This means they'd have to do several things. For one, they would have to tell all of their customers that quantities are extremely low. They're going to sell out in a couple seconds, and anyone who wants it after launch day is going to have to wait 2 to 3, maybe even 4 months. Should Apple even unveil something that they can't ship for another 4 months? Because expect the demand for the iPhone edition to be higher than that of AirPods, and those are still backordered. You still have to wait 6 weeks to get those. So if they unveiled a revolutionary new iPhone like the one we're seeing in all the leaks, demand for it is going to be incredibly, incredibly high. So the next thing Apple might have to do is make it extremely expensive. That way, demand would be lower and more people would say, I can't afford that, so I'm not gonna buy it. Which means, yeah, all these new iPhone leaks are cool, the iPhone edition looks great, but if everyone had to pay 4 to 5 grand for it, and that's all Apple can do to try to keep demand low, it's not really a new revolutionary breakthrough. It's just kind of a iPhone built for the elite few who can afford it. That would be extremely underwhelming. So what Apple did, what I am theorizing they did, I could be completely wrong about this, was they had the choice to release it in full-fledged mass production with millions ready to sell on launch date, or they could have kept Touch ID, this brand new innovative technology that's very hard to manufacture, and only had it in extremely limited quantities so that only the super rich could have it. I think Apple decided it would be better for people as a whole to all have access to the iPhone edition, which by the way is already going to be in short supply. The processor chips are in short supply, the OLED displays are, but Apple I think is deciding that Touch ID, while it is a pivotal part of the Apple ecosystem, and Apple is the company that introduced this technology that we now take for granted on most smartphones, they're deciding there's a better way to do it, which is of course the 3D face unlock technology. Kuo has reported that this 3D face unlock thing is very innovative and very advanced, and more advanced than any face unlock across any other smartphone right now, and this is what has me interested. If Apple could not embed Touch ID underneath the display, they would have no choice but to move it to the side of the phone or the back, right? Only if there was not a better alternative. We all know that Apple likes to remove things. Headphone jack, CD drive, USB port, floppy disk, disk drive, the list goes on, but they only remove something when there is a better way to replace it. What I'm hoping is that the 3D face unlock technology that they're implementing into the new iPhone is so sophisticated, is so capable that even when it's sitting on a table or a desk in front of you, it will unlock. It has that wide field of view that uses IR sensors, it uses a high megapixel camera that can analyze your face from 2 different perspectives. Again, a 3D camera, if you will, that analyzes a ton of things so that hopefully, because it is a face unlock, it is not entirely dependent on just your irises like it is on the Galaxy S8 or the Note 7. Those, I think the problem with them is they're too specific. You have to look at them just right, and it has to be under certain conditions. You can't be outside, it has to be from the right distance, and I don't think Apple would implement something like that because it's not user-friendly. If Apple was doing 3D face unlock, I'm assuming it's going to be much more intuitive, it's going to be more user-friendly so that it doesn't have to be in the exact right place. It could be from an angle. It's face unlock, right? So it could even do it if you had sunglasses on. It wouldn't be entirely dependent on the eyes. It could analyze the structure of your head, your ears, your hair. Remember smart things like that. And instead of having an infrared sensor that just looks at your irises, it looks at the whole face. That way, this works in daylight, this works in the dark because it's infrared, but it's also using data from those other cameras because we're seeing a wide array of sensors on the front of this new iPhone. All those sensors are going to work together to try to piece together a digital version of your face that can be used to unlock your phone. This could potentially be easier than Touch ID. With Touch ID now, you would just place our finger on the home button. What if instead of doing that, you just walked up to your phone and it knows, picks up your face right away and unlocks? Now there's no rest your finger here, try it again. And a lot of my comments are saying, well, Touch ID is built into Apple Pay. Well, look, Face Unlock could be built into Apple Pay as well. When you're ready to confirm something, it just looks at your face, makes sure it's you, and then purchases the transaction. Now, I understand that 3D Face Unlock is not a flawless solution. Lots of people are bringing up comments like, what if it's in the dark? What if you have a mask on? What if someone steals your phone, holds it up to you, and unlocks it, and then runs away? Yes, I understand. There are problems with it, but Touch ID has a lot of problems too. Keep in mind, one of the things Apple may have been against was, since they are implementing IP68 water resistance into the new iPhone, having a fingerprint reader wouldn't be that useful underwater because when your finger is wet, it doesn't register on Touch ID that well. Think about when you're busy with something. Maybe you're eating, you've got ketchup or ranch on your fingers or whatever. You don't want to get all that on your phone, right? So what if you could unlock it with just your face and you don't have to get your phone all grimy? See, with 3D Face Unlock, you could still unlock your phone if you had gloves on. You could unlock your phone if you were underwater, which, as I've heard, is going to be a big push with this next iPhone. Its underwater capabilities. And I think that if 3D Face Unlock is as capable as we're thinking, as in you can view it from multiple angles in various distances, under harsh conditions like wearing glasses or in the dark, if it is that capable, Apple will slowly start implementing it into their other pieces of tech, into the iPad, the MacBook lineup. It could start implementing it, and maybe that's even faster than Touch ID. With Touch ID, you still have a call to action. You have to put your finger on the fingerprint reader, wherever it is on your device. 3D Face Unlock, while it might be a little scary to a lot of people, has the potential to be faster because you can just open it and you're already looking at it. Looking at your device will unlock it. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I know I've said in the past that it would suck if they removed Touch ID altogether. Hearing these rumors that Face Unlock is going to be very capable encourages me to the idea that maybe Apple has found a better way. Maybe they're slowly going to start phasing out Touch ID. If it really is as capable as we're thinking and hearing about, then perhaps they don't need to implement Touch ID on 2018's iPhones. Some people have been thinking that. They couldn't get Touch ID in the screen on this generation, but they will on the next. Maybe they don't have to if this feature is good enough. Apple's never been one to give us the array of options a lot of people like, so it would be fairly like Apple to say, no, Touch ID isn't good anymore, use Face Unlock. It would be a little unlike Apple to say, use Face Unlock, it's a really cool technology, but if you prefer the fingerprint reader, we added it to the back as well. Apple typically doesn't want to give you options like that. They found the better way, you will go that way. So I've had a lot of people call me a hypocrite for flip-flopping on opinions because, as we all know, I am a very biased Apple sheep, guilty as charged. But keep in mind, I think this idea of moving to a different way of unlocking your phone, while it is different, it has a lot of benefits and it allows for a redesign that everyone wanted. The next iPhone is going to have the highest display to bezel ratio ever. I'm sure Samsung will beat it shortly after, but if we all wanted a redesign like this, we have to make a couple compromises. Understand that if you think Apple had to add Touch ID into the screen, even though this technology is very young and very new, the fingerprint reader would be slower, still wouldn't work underwater. Even if you think they had to do that, keep in mind it may have made the phone more expensive and it may mean you have to wait 5 to 6 months before you can get your hands on one. I personally think Apple did the right thing. They knew they had to ship millions millions of these things, tens of millions of iPhone editions. So they decided they need to find the more efficient way of manufacturing so that everyone can have one, not just a couple rich people. And as I said, we'll hope that this 3D face unlock that Apple's obviously putting a lot into is going to be more efficient in a better way of securing our devices. Let's hope so. Again, we'll never know until the launch date, but that's what some of these rumors are saying, and I hope they are true. I hope you forgave Apple a little bit after this video, and I hope you forgave yourself for not giving me a break. I was sunburnt like a dead lobster on the beach. I could barely lay in bed. My back is so crisp right now. So I decided, hey, I'll read some of my fans' YouTube comments on the videos that I made for them. Let's see. Oh, everyone's just mad because I'm not talking about this new leak. Thank you so much for that. That's just what I needed. And of course, let me know what you think on this topic in the comments below. I'm sure we're gonna have a very civil debate about it. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.